So now that you know the core rules that D&D is built on, it's time to start exploring the more nuanced rules. But first, I want to take you on a tour of a character sheet so that we can talk about these rules in more depth in future episodes, and you'll have a reference that you can follow along with. Now this is Baydar. Baydar is a dragonborn barbarian, and he's just set out into the world to find adventure. He's a level 1 character, and he and his friends are going to be our examples throughout this series. Using Baydar, I'm going to show you how character building works, and today we're going to take a tour of Baydar's level 1 character sheet. There's a lot of places online to get character sheets, and each one's going to look slightly different, but they all contain the same core information. So let's dive into it and find out what makes Baydar tick. To start with, we have the basic information about our character. This is usually placed at the top of the character sheet and includes the character and player names, as well as what race, class, and level the character is. In this area, you'll also find the character background, alignment, and how much XP they have. Over on the left-hand side of the sheet, we have the ability scores. We're going to be covering these in depth in the next episode, but they are the core of your character and they're used to determine a lot of things in the game. Next to that, we have inspiration. This is a special rule that your Dungeon Master can award you that allows you to roll with advantage, which we covered in episode 1. Below that is our proficiency bonus, which we also covered in episode 1. Next, you have your saving throws, which are used when you need to react to certain things, which we're going to be covering in a future episode. Below that, you'll find your skills, which you use whenever you want to do something outside of combat that has a chance of failure. We're going to have an entire episode on all of these things as well. And then below ability scores and your skills, we have the passive perception score. This represents how aware of your surroundings the character is, and it's based on your perception skill. At the top of the middle column, we have 3 large boxes. The first is the armor class, which represents how hard you are to hit, and is the number your enemies need to beat to be able to hurt you. Initiative represents your readiness for combat, and is used at the start of every combat encounter. And finally, your speed is how far you can move as part of your move action in combat. Next up, we have all the information about your hit points, how survivable your character is. There's space for your maximum hit point value, your current hit point value, and any temporary hit points that you might have, which are hit points you gain from certain special abilities. Beneath that, we've got a box for your hit dice, which is one of the main ways you're going to determine your hit points, and we're going to cover that in a future episode as well. Next up, we come to death saves. These are a special type of saving throw that determine whether or not you succumb to your wounds and die, or whether you stay in the fight. Next, we have an area for you to list what attacks your character can make, followed by a place for you to track your loot and equipment. Then over on the right side here, we've got information about your character. Personality traits tell you about who your character is. Ideals tell you about what your character believes in. Bonds tell you about how your character is connected to the world, and flaws tell you what shortcomings your character has. And then we've got a section for you to write down all the special rules that your character gets from their race, their class, background, or any other source. The next page is all about your character as a person and gives you space to note down their physical description, draw a picture of them, expand on their backstory, or talk about their allies, and also adds information about their additional features or any extra treasure they have. And then finally, we have the spellcasting page, which is one of the most confusing pages for new players, and it's kind of got the least contextual information. But this page is where you keep track of all your spells if your character is a magic user. You can track what spells you know, how many of your spells you can cast in an adventuring day, and which spells you have ready for that day. We'll cover all of this in future episodes, so don't worry if you're still confused, but I wanted to give you an introduction to the character sheet. Throughout this series, we're going to dive into each of these elements and talk about all of them more in depth. I'm going to walk you through the entire character creation process in a future episode, beginning to end, to show you how I came up with Baydar's stack. You can download a copy of Baydar's completed level 1 character sheet over on howtoplayDND.com, where you'll also find example character sheets for all of Baydar's friends: Helga the dwarf cleric, Lila the tiefling rogue, and Emir the elf wizard. In the next episode, we're going to explore ability scores, the foundation of what makes your character work in the game, and the first step on your journey to becoming an epic adventurer. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all of the new episodes, which will be released every week. But until next time, happy gaming.